Okay, so let us now continue the discussion of supply, and today we will wind up the topic of supply. So what we have covered in the earlier classes is the nature of supply, where I have to take a decision whether any supply is interstate or intrastate. Then I have covered with you forms of supply. In forms of supply, what I have covered is the concept of outward supply, inward supply, continuous supply of goods, and continuous supply of services. Now I am starting with the new concept, and this is the last topic of the subtopic supply, and that is types of supply. So what do I mean by types of supply? Is this supply taxable or not taxable? Or the supply is exempt or not? Then composite supply, mixed supply, zero rated supply. So these are different types of supply. So let me now start discussing with you the concept of types of supply, and that is the last topic. After this, my chapter supply is over. Then in the next class, I will start a new topic with you, place of supply. So let me now share with you my notepad. So let us now discuss this concept. Types of supply. Again, for types of supply, I will take the help of section 2 also. Whether any supply is taxable, non-taxable, exempt, zero rated, I hope this is visible. Is it visible? Is the screen visible? Is the screen visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is now defined in section 2 clause 108. It is 2 clause 78, 2 clause 47. When I'm not writing the act, by default you have to assume that these are CGST acts. These definitions are in CGST Act. It is section 16 of IGST Act. So whenever I will write any section of IGST Act, I will separately write it down. And this is section 8 of CGST. So I'm not writing CGST Act. By default, if I'm not writing the act, then you have to assume that this section is of CGST Act. Now let me start discussing with you the definitions of taxable supply. What do you mean by taxable, non-taxable, exempt, zero rated, and composite and mixed supply? So what do you mean by taxable supply? Every supply which is leviable to tax under GST laws is taxable supply. That's it. So let me show this CGST Act so that I can show the original definition or direct definition. This is taxable supply. As you can see, section 2 clause 108. Taxable supply means a supply of goods or services or both which is leviable to tax under this act. So technically, every supply is a taxable supply, because except alcoholic liquor for human consumption, every supply is leviable under GST laws. Only one supply is not covered under GST laws, and that is alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Apart from alcoholic liquor for human consumption, 5 petroleum products are leviable under GST laws, but the date of their applicability has not yet been decided. I hope you remember this point. Alcoholic liquor for human consumption is permanently beyond the scope of GST laws. Apart from this, or other than this alcoholic liquor for human consumption, every goods or services. Now you must read the definition of what is good and what is a service. So every good and service when you supply is leviable to tax under GST laws, including petroleum products. However, the date of applicability of levying GST on petroleum products is still not yet decided by the central government as well as the state government. So technically, what is taxable supply? Every supply which is leviable to tax under GST laws is a taxable supply. And now logically on this basis, can you tell me now what is non-taxable? Every supply which is not leviable under GST laws. So let me check 2 clause 78, non-taxable supply. Non-taxable supply means the supply of goods or services or both which is not leviable to tax under this act. So which act I am studying? CGST Act or under the IGST Act. So technically I can say that every supply which is not leviable to tax under this act or under IGST Act, whatever is the case, under GST laws you can say in simplified form, is a non-taxable supply. Now what is the answer of this non-taxable supply? Alcoholic liquor for human consumption, as well as those 5 petroleum products. Now, as far as those 5 petroleum products are concerned, technically they are leviable to tax under GST laws, but the date of their applicability is deferred or not yet decided. So I can say that this is also that petroleum products are also included in non-taxable supply. It's only for the purpose of simplicity. Now in reality these are leviable to tax. If I show you section 9, let me show you section 9 and then you will see yourself. If you remember, it was section 9 subsection 2. This is the language of the act, 9 subsection 2. See this. The central tax on the supply of petroleum crude, high-speed diesel, motor spirit commonly known as petrol, natural gas and aviation turbine fuel shall be levied with effect from such date as may be notified by the government on the recommendation of council. So technically, in future when these petroleum products will be under the purview of GST, then don't need any constitutional amendment. To bring the alcoholic liquor for human consumption under GST, constitutional amendment is required because it is a state subject. As far as petroleum is concerned, they don't need any constitutional amendment. They have already made it a part of GST. Under section 9 subsection 2, they have simply deferred the date. So then it's your choice or how I should or we should interpret the law. We can say that on petroleum products, GST is leviable, but the date of leviability is not yet decided. Or I can say that it is still not leviable under GST law. So it depends upon in what context we are talking about. So we must know both the points, that on petroleum products, GST is leviable, but date of leviability of GST is not yet decided. Or I can also say that since the date is not decided, I can say that petroleum products, GST on petroleum products is not leviable. So when I want to ask that what is non-taxable supply, the answer should be alcoholic liquor for human consumption, and 5 petroleum products. That's it. In alcoholic liquor for human consumption, it is permanently excluded from GST, and as far as 5 petroleum products is concerned, it is not permanently excluded. For the time being, the date of leviability is deferred. So I have covered with you two concepts, taxable supply and non-taxable supply. Now the next concept is exempt supply. Exempt supply. Close. It is 47. Exempt supply. This is what exempt supply. Exempt supply means supply of any goods, any goods or services or both, which attracts nil rate of tax. I have shown you different rates in case of goods and different rates in case of services. So any supply, if it is having 0% rate of tax, like lassi, buttermilk, contraceptives, which are used to for population control, artificial semen, then vegetables, tomatoes, potatoes, kajal, bindi. There are so many products in which case you have 0% rate of tax. So all those are known as exempt supply. Or now when I say nil rate of tax, technically I'm not saying that it is exempt. Technically I'm not saying that it is 100% exempt. It has a tax rate, but tax rate is 0. Or what? Which may be wholly exempt from tax under section 11, or and you ignore these sections, which may be wholly exempt from tax. So there may be some supplies where you have 100% exemption. So in so many services, like services by educational institutions to the faculty, to the students, the services which is provided by Shri Ram College of Commerce to its students is 100% exempt from tax. So there are so many services, we will cover this later on, where you have 100% exemption. Now technically there is a difference. As far as exempt supply is concerned, two examples are with us which are given in the definition. A supply which is 100% exempt, or supply which is not exempt, which has a tax rate, but tax rate is 0%. Now effectively you can say it is also exempt. Apart from this, it includes non-taxable supply. That means petroleum products, alcoholic liquor for human consumption. These are also a part of exempt supply as well as non-taxable supply, because exempt supply is a broader concept than non-taxable supply. Now how can I simplify this point? So now I can say that what is a taxable supply? Supply of goods or services which is leviable to tax under GST law. Leviable to tax under GST laws is taxable supply. But is not taxable supply, which is not leviable, to tax under GST laws. And in this there are two categories. One supply is permanently excluded and one supply is temporarily excluded. Now which is permanently excluded? Alcoholic liquor for human consumption, not for medicinal property. Alcohol is used in drugs also for positive benefits, but when it is for human consumption, then it is beyond the purpose of GST laws. So alcoholic liquor for human consumption. And what is temporarily excluded? 5 petroleum products. Now, what is exempt supply? Now, in this, we have three categories. A supply which is 100% exempt. 100% exempt. I gave you the example of services by educational institution is 100% exempt. Now, supply which is not 100% exempt but 0% tax rate. For example, bovine animals, fresh meat, where the tax rate is 0%. Fruits, vegetables, 0% tax. So you cannot say technically that these are exempt, because right now these are at 0%. Maybe tomorrow government brings a notification and tax this or increase the tax rate from 0% to, for example, 18%. So you must understand that for a layman these things are same, exempt or 0%. But in reality, as an expert, you must know the difference. If 100% exempt, there is no question of tax rate. But if 0% tax, it is not exempt. It is taxable at 0% rate. That's it. And third is non-taxable supply. That means this concept is a part of exempt supply. So I can say that exempt supply is a broader concept. It is a broader concept than non-taxable supply. Every non-taxable supply will by default be an exempt supply. But exempt supply, every exempt supply may not necessarily be a non-taxable supply. If these things are clear, please raise your hand. If the concept is very well clear, please raise your hand. Now, next point. Now, fourth example is zero rated supply. Now, this is the next concept. Taxable supply, non-taxable supply, exempt supply, and zero rated supply. Now, this is sections. It is section 16 of the IGST Act. Now, what is this? Two types of supplies are zero rated. Every export in India, exports of goods or services. On exports, these are zero rated supplies. It's not that there is no tax rate. The tax rate is effectively zero. I will tell you how. Exports of goods or services, or supplies to a special economic zone. To a special economic zone. Developer, I hope you remember this point, or a unit. I've already discussed this point. When I was discussing the concept of interstate supply, I have discussed that point with you. Now, what do I mean by export of goods or services? So I may be a businessman and maybe I'm exporting some goods, or we have a company X Limited, it must be exporting the goods, or maybe we have Y Limited, and this is in special economic zone, that is also exporting the goods. So it does not matter who exports the goods. It does not matter who is exporting the goods, whether you as an individual exports, whether a company outside special economic zone exports, or whether a company within special economic zone exports. It does not matter who exports. To promote Indian goods in foreign markets, to promote Indian services in foreign markets, government says that every export is zero rated. Technically, there is no tax. So this is what you are doing as export. But maybe you are purchasing also. For example, this Y Limited is special economic zone. This company must be purchasing something also, because if you are a manufacturer, it's not that you can only sell without purchasing anything. You need raw material also. So maybe this company is purchasing something. So whosoever is supplying to this unit in special economic zone, whosoever, suppose Z Limited is supplying some raw material to this special economic zone unit, then this supply from Z Limited is also supplies to a zero rated supply. So every export, whether by an individual, firm, company, or any company in a special economic zone, every export is zero rated. Now, whatever is supplied to a special economic zone developer or a unit is also zero rated. This is the concept of zero rated supply. So let me share with you IGST Act now, section 16. Now see the heading of section 16 of IGST. Subsection 1. Zero rated supply means any of the following supplies of goods or services or both, namely, clause A, export of goods or services or both. That means I have already told you, whether you export, a company export, or any company of a special economic zone exports, every export is zero rated. Clause B, any supply to a special economic zone developer or a special economic zone unit is also zero rated. Then next point. Subsection 2. Subject to the provisions of subsection 5 or section 17 of the Central Goods and Services Tax Act. I am not discussing this section 17 subsection 5 right now. I will discuss this in a separate topic, input tax credit. You keep it pending for the time being. Only start reading from this point, that credit of input tax may be availed for making zero rated supply, notwithstanding that such supply may be an exempt supply. When I say zero rated, technically there is no tax. Technically there is no tax, but you can still take credit of input tax. How now? So let me tell you this point now. Now, for example, there is a company X Limited. Now, this is X Limited. X Limited has purchased some product, some goods and services. X Limited has purchased some goods and services, and this company has paid 2 lakh as GST on whatever is the purchase. 2 lakh as GST. So everyone who purchased as a recipient, that person has to pay the tax. So this company has purchased something from this individual and paid 2 lakh as GST. I don't know the value. For example, the value was 20 lakh. The value of goods was 20 lakh and at 10%, for example, 2 lakh is the GST paid. Now this company will use these goods in manufacturing and will export. And the value of export is, for example, 25 lakh. The value of export is 25 lakh. And again, for example, let's say 10% is the tax. I am saying zero rated. It doesn't mean that tax rate is 0%. Effectively, it is zero rated. That how I will say zero rated. Technically, there is no tax. Now, when I say that 10% is the tax rate, so you have two options. Since the department says that it is zero rated, it does not mean that it is zero rated. It does not mean that effectively it is zero rated. How it is zero rated, that you can understand from subsection 3 of section 1605 GST. That you can understand that how effectively it will come out to be zero rated is why, because of section 16 subsection 3. So I need to share that 16 subsection 3 with you first. Now what it says, you need to understand 16.3 in this case. Now see this. I don't know whether you are reading the newspapers regularly or not, but have you seen so many news where the exporters are saying that government is delaying our refund of GST? Exporters have been complaining to the government that you are not processing our GST on time. Why? This you will understand from section 16 subsection 3 why they are saying this. Now this is 16.3 and what it says. A registered person making zero rated supply. What do I mean by zero rated supply? Exports by anyone or supplying to a special economic zone developer or a unit. A registered person making zero rated supply shall be eligible to claim a refund under either of the following options. So exporter has two options to claim refund. That is why I am saying that effectively the tax rate is not zero. Technically, the tax rate is not zero on exports, but effectively you are not paying any tax to the government. Why? Because of these two options. Clause A. He may supply goods or services or both under bond or letter of undertaking, subject to such conditions, safeguards, and procedure as may be prescribed, without payment of integrated tax, and claim refund of unutilized input tax credit. This is first option. That you can do export and you don't pay any tax. Now in the same example which I was showing you, where as X Limited I have paid 2 lakh as tax, but when I did export of rupees 2,50,000 with 10%, I have to pay 2,50,000 as tax. So what is my option 1? That on this 25 lakh export value, there is no need to pay any tax. But if I don't pay any tax, the tax which I have paid when I purchased that amount, that will go waste. So government says claim this ITC as refund from us. I will show you later on when I will read this clause B for you with the help of that same example. That clause A says that don't pay any output tax to us. You export the things without payment of integrated tax, because every export is what? Technically interstate. This already I have covered in section 7 with you. So it says on export, on outward supply, don't pay any tax, and whatever unutilized input tax credit you have, just like 2 lakh in my example, we will give you that as a refund. So technically it becomes zero rated supply. Exporters are not supposed to pay any tax. Or second option, he may supply goods or services or both, subject to such conditions, safeguards and procedure as may be prescribed. What do I mean by prescribed? Where rules are mentioned that what conditions you should follow, what precautions you should take, etc. On payment of integrated tax, that you should pay full integrated tax. For example, in the same example, if 25 lakh is the value of supply and if 10% is GST, I should pay 2 lakh 50 and claim refund of such tax paid on goods or services or both supplied in accordance with the provisions of section 54 of the Central Goods and Services Tax Act or the rules made under. So you are not supposed to learn section 54. It only gives you the rules of refund. That's it. So you pay the tax and claim the refund of that tax. That's it. Now, so I have two options as an exporter. My option number one is what? I will not pay any tax on outward supply and I will claim 2 lakh unutilized input tax credit as a refund. Second option is what? I will pay the tax on outward supply and claim the refund on whatever tax I have paid. So when I come back to my slide, my notepad, how you can explain these points? How you can explain these points? Option number one. So there are two options. As an exporter, what option I have? Option one. That do not pay any tax on this 25 lakh, even though the tax rate is 10%, but don't pay. And because since you are not paying any tax, you technically cannot claim the benefit of this input tax credit paid. When you can claim input tax credit, when you have some output tax, you deduct input tax. But since I'm not paying output tax in my option one, so my 2 lakh will go waste. Government says no issue. Claim the refund from us of your ITC. On input tax credit of rupees 2 lakh. So technically, what is my saving? This 2 lakh I will get as refund, and remaining amount which I would have paid on my output tax, I'm not paying. What is my option number two? Government says pay the output tax. So how much is the output tax? With 10% on the value of supply. 2 lakh 50 is the output tax. Less. Because when I will pay output tax, I would be able to utilize my input tax credit of 2 lakh. And now, effectively, how much you are paying? Only 50,000, and government says no issue. We will refund this 50,000 also. Government will refund me this 50,000 also. I will get sooner or later this 50 also. So 2 lakh I have saved here, and 50,000 which I have paid will be given to me as a refund. So technically, what this amount I will pay 50,000, but this amount I will pay, I will get the refund after some time, and whatever 2 lakh I have paid, technically I got it right now. Similarly, in the above example, in option number 1, since I will not pay anything on my outward supply, since I'm not paying anything on my outward supply, there is no question of getting any refund also. And whatever I have paid 2 lakh earlier, this I will get the refund. So here also from my pocket, nothing is going. And here also from my pocket, nothing is going. In option number 1, what is happening? If you remember, or if you can understand this value, in option number 1, what is happening? From my pocket, how much is going? 2 lakh. How much has gone already? 2 lakh. And how much will go? Nil. So I will get back 2 lakh. it is the past tense. 2 lakh is gone, has already gone in the past, and in future nothing is going. So your saving is 2 lakh. In option number 2, what is happening? Whatever 2 lakh in the past which has gone is directly refunded, directly adjusted while you paying output tax. Directly adjusted. So you got it. And rupees 50,000 in future you have to pay, and you will get the refund of this 50. So technically the effective is nil. In both the options, technically you can say it is zero rated. There is nothing which goes out from your pocket if you are an exporter, because it's an incentive for the exporters. That is the only point. Please raise your hand if these concepts are clear. In case not clear, kindly inform. If you understand these examples clearly, you will find that nothing is going from your pocket. In case the concept is clear, please raise your hand. In option number 1, whatever input tax credit you have paid, you will get that as a refund, because in output tax you are not paying anything. So your tax paid is zero. In second option, whatever input tax you have paid, you have adjusted it. Had there been no input tax in option number 2, I would have paid 2,50,000, 25 lakh into 10%. But technically when you adjusted 2 lakh, so you got it back and you are paying only 50. So this 50 again you will get it refund after some point of time. So in both the cases, as an exporter, there is no tax liability. That is why effectively it is a zero rated supply where no tax is paid on the exports. I hope the point is clear. And now let me wind up my next concept, composite and mixed supply. That's it. After this, the supply will be over. Now it is fifth point, composite and mixed supply. I hope the screen is visible. Now it is defined in section 8 of the CGST Act. If I'm writing only section, that means it is CGST Act. Now I would like to explain with the help of example. When you go in any hotel, for a stay of, for example, 5 day 4 night, do you know you also get laundry services free? Laundry services, free or chargeable doesn't matter, but you can avail the laundry services. When you go in any hotel for a stay, you can get laundry services. It is for the first example. Second example, when you purchase a railway ticket, for example, you are traveling by Rajdhani, Delhi, Kolkata, do you know that ticket does not include only cost of travel? It might be including cost of food. It might be including cost of insurance. Now, when on any occasion, on Eid, Diwali, Guru Purab, on Christmas, or maybe other festivals of a different religion, from a sweet shop, you get some products packed in a basket. It is having fruity, it is having some sweets, chocolates. Okay, and this is the total basket cost rupees, for example, 600 rupees. This total ticket cost, for example, 4,000 rupees. This total cost is, for example, rupees 18,000. Now these are some of the examples. Now, do you know what is the main question? The main question is, how will I charge the tax rate? This is the main question. How will I charge the tax rate? For example, on fruity, the tax rate is 18%. On chocolate, for example, the tax rate is 28%. On sweets, for example, the tax rate is 9%, for example. How will I charge? Because I have to purchase the entire basket. Chocolate, fruity and sweets may be separately available, but when these are packed, they loses their own separate value and the basket cost is 600. So the question is, how will you tax 600? In Rajdhani, traveling cost, food cost, insurance cost may be separately given or not given. For example, 3800 is traveling, 150 is food, insurance 50 rupees. How will I charge? Because can you get only insurance without traveling? Answer is no. Can you get food only without traveling? Answer is no. So the cost is single, 4,000. How will you charge GST? Laundry services may be, for example, 200. And remaining amount rupees 70,800 is the hotel stay. How will you charge the GST on 18,000? I hope the concept which I am raising is clear. For example, this hotel stay is taxable at, for example, 28% and laundry service at 18%. How will you charge? Traveling, for example, 28%. Food, for example, nil. Insurance, for example, 14%. How will you charge? So are you getting a sense of the problem which I am raising? That when you have more than one supply of goods or services in a bundle, then there is a problem of tax rate, especially when that mixed component is having different tax rates. Is the issue clear which I am raising? Can you think that it is easy to tax the amount? Please raise your hand if you have understood the concept which I am raising. That yes, there can be some problem or there is a problem. When you get a collection of goods at one price and different components are having different prices, how will you charge the amount? Okay, so that means issue is clear that yes, there is a problem. And since there is a problem, for the to bring uniformity across the nation, it is better that we form a rule. So the act has given a rule. Now one thing is sure, that every composite supply, I don't know whether you remember schedule 2 or not, but in schedule 2, let me show you that point. This is a composite supply. In schedule 2, if you remember, two things are composite supply by default: work contract and supply of goods as part of services like a restaurant service. I told you that this is the example of composite supply. Apart from those examples where construction of building is there, because in construction of building you use cement, iron along with services, so it becomes services, and services is of what? Composite supply. In case of restaurant also, you consume food along with the restaurant service, it also becomes a case of service. So this is showed that it is a service, these two. Now in my example, as far as composite supply is concerned, what is the definition of composite supply? In schedule 2, I must have listened the word composite supply, but still I do not know what is composite supply. So I need to check section number 2. That what is a composite supply? It is technically a supply by a taxable person of two or more than two combinations. And we will be having a new word principal supply. Within composite supply, I will use a new word, principal supply. So let me check section 2 clause 30. I think 30. Yes, 30. Now see this. Composite supply means a supply made by a taxable person to a recipient, consisting of two or more taxable supply of goods or services or both. Taxable supply. So what is taxable supply? Every supply which is leviable under GST, which we have just covered today, or any combination thereof which are naturally bundled. So this is a new word, naturally bundled, which are naturally bundled. By default, those will always come in a mix. You cannot segregate those. You cannot separately demand these. So this is naturally bundled, that when you purchase one or when you take one thing, by default you have to accept another thing. This is naturally bundled and supplied in conjunction with each other in the ordinary course of business. And normally these are supplied in a combination, not separately. One of which is a principal supply. So there is a new word now, principal supply. So which are naturally bundled? Can you tell me which are naturally bundled? Like hotel example which I have given. When you take hotel stay, by default laundry service is naturally bundled. Can you only avail laundry services? कभी किसी 5 स्टार होटल के बाहर जाके कह सकते हो कि मेरे कपड़े धुलवा देना, but I don't want to stay in your hotel. It's not possible. They will throw you out. So you cannot avail laundry services only without saying that I will not stay in your hotel. So by default, it becomes a naturally bundled supply. Can you travel in Rajdhani, or can you ask railway that I don't want to travel from Delhi to Kolkata, I simply need food in Rajdhani Express? It's not possible. These are naturally bundled supplies. So these are not defined in the Act. Act doesn't define naturally bundled, but by default, what is naturally bundled, it depends upon case to case. You have to apply your mind and you have to think which are naturally bundled supplies. Act has given the example also. And when any supply is naturally bundled, so this is one first point, that which is a composite supply, where a supply is naturally bundled. And one thing is sure, that single supply cannot be composite. There must be two or more than two goods or services. And out of that, those two or more goods or services, one must be a principal supply. Principal supply means main supply. Like in my example, hotel and laundry. Is laundry the principal supply, or staying in a hotel the principal supply? Staying in a hotel is a principal supply, main supply, with which laundry services are provided to you. In Rajdhani traveling example, insurance, food and traveling, is it a composite supply? Yes, because these are naturally bundled. And out of this naturally bundled, traveling is the principal supply, insurance and food comes by default. Illustration is also explained in the Act, where goods are packed and transported with insurance. You purchase some goods and these goods will be given to you or will be sent at your address with insurance. Supply of goods, packing material, transport insurance, this is a composite supply, because these are naturally bundled. Because when you pack the goods, you need packing material also, you need transportation also, and you need insurance also. It's a composite supply. And insurance, transportation and packing is not the main supply. Main supply is goods. So where supply of goods is a principal supply. So I hope the composite supply is clear. The two things which you should remember is naturally bundled must be there in composite supply, and out of these supplies, if there are 7 products, 8 products, 2 products, one must be principal, with which all other supplies are attached by default. It is composite supply. Let me first show you the meaning of principal supply also. Clause 90 defines principal supply. Though I have explained what is principal supply, but let me show you the language of the Act also. principal supply means the supply of goods or services which constitutes the predominant element of a composite supply, and to which any other supply forming part of that composite supply is ancillary, that means additional, secondary. In Rajdhani traveling example, traveling is the principal supply, predominant part. In hotel staying example, staying in a hotel is a principal supply, laundry services ancillary, secondary. This is principal supply. So I think composite supply is clear. Naturally bundled, two or more than two supply of goods or services. And out of those two or more than two supplies, one must be principal, which is the main supply, with which other supplies comes by default. Now what is mixed supply? And then I will show you the taxability. Mixed supply. Every composite is a mixed supply, but every mixed might not be composite. To close 34. So there is a slight difference between mixed and composite. For a composite supply, first supply must be mixed supply. Mixed supply means two or more individual supplies of goods or services or any combination thereof made in conjunction with each other by a taxable person for a single price, where such supply does not constitute a composite supply. Every supply will first become mixed. It has to be checked whether it can become composite or not. If it cannot become composite, it will remain mixed, otherwise it will be treated as composite. It's like residential status under Income Tax Act. When you satisfy one basic condition as an individual, you become resident. But you cannot remain resident. Either you should become resident and ordinary resident, or resident but not ordinary resident. Same is the case here. First, every supply has to be mixed. In case we have two or more than two supply of goods or services. Once any supply has remained mixed, you cannot simply say it is mixed. You have to first check, can it become composite? If it can become composite, you have to make it composite, otherwise it will remain mixed. I hope the chain is clear that first of all, a supply must be mixed. You cannot decide any supply to be mixed without first going through the definition or the concept of composite supply. Now, same example which I have given in case of that basket which you purchased on some occasion. This is a composite supply. I hope the point is clear. Now you can understand that this is hotel supply. This is first a mixed supply. First it is mixed because it is having two components, hotel stay plus laundry, hotel plus laundry. So it is mixed by default. But when I checked it for composite, I found that it is composite. So it cannot remain mixed. It is a composite supply because the supplies are naturally bundled. And not only naturally bundled, the main supply, principal supply is the hotel stay. Rajdhani Express. Again, it is mixed first. Rajdhani Express traveling means traveling, food, insurance. So it's mixed because two or more than two. So it is mixed by default. Can it become composite? Yes, it can become composite. And in fact, it is composite. Why? Because these are also naturally bundled. By default, these are supplied together. And out of natural bundle, it is easily identifiable that traveling is principal supply. Then this basket of chocolate, fruity, sweets. Is it a mixed? Yes. Why it is a mixed? Because we have chocolate, sweets and fruity. So one thing is sure that it is a mixed. Can it become composite? Answer is no. It cannot become composite. Why? Why it cannot become composite? Because nothing is naturally bundled. Nothing is naturally bundled. Can I buy chocolate separately? Yes. Can I buy sweet separately? Yes. Can I buy fruity separately? Yes. So it is not naturally bundled. Further, there is no principal supply. You cannot say that On purchase of chocolate, by default sweets and fruity depends, no. Or on purchase of sweets, by default chocolate or fruity depends, no. Or on purchase of fruity, by default chocolate sweet depends, no. Since it cannot be made composite, that is why it has to be settled as a mixed supply. So please raise your hand if the concept of mixed and composite supply is clear. Every supply, if has to be checked for mixed and composite, first it has to be mixed. And I cannot take the decision only on the basis of mixed. I have to try my level best to make sure that it becomes composite. It should be naturally bundled, and not only natural bundled, it should be easily identifiable that which is principal supply. So please raise your hand if the concepts are clear as far as composite and principal supply is concerned. Okay, so when it is clear that what is principal supply and what is composite supply, now the question arises, taxability. How do you tax these supplies? This is what the main point is. How do you tax these supplies? So the answer is, in case of composite supply, now it is taxability of composite supply. So how do you tax any composite supply? Because the amount cannot be segregated, it is separate. Then whatever is the tax rate of principal supply, whatever is the tax rate on principal supply, the same rate is applicable to the entire value. This is the provision. Like in my example of hotel stay, since it was composite supply, 17,800 was the hotel charge and 200 was laundry charge, but collectively it is 18,000. So laundry was taxable at 18%, principal supply hotel was taxable at 28%. On entire value of 18,000, I have to charge, there is no option, 28%. Similarly, traveling by Rajdhani, it is composite supply, 3,800, 150, 50 cannot be taxed separately. On entire 4,000, food nil rate, insurance 14, high principal supply rate is what, 28%. I have to tax at 28%. That's it. Now, if in the same example, I assume that traveling is 28, food nil, and insurance 14. Suppose I make a change. I say that traveling is 14, food 0, insurance 28. Still, it doesn't mean that I will charge 28%. I will charge 14% then. So whatever is the principal supply on that, whatever is the tax rate on principal supply, that rate is applicable on the entire value. Then I would have charged 14%. I hope the point is clear. And now, taxability of mixed supply. Now, when it is a mixed supply, then you don't have principal supply, then you will check the tax rate which is highest. Higher tax rate is chargeable on the entire value. Like in my example, chocolate was taxed at 28%, sweets 9%, fruity 18%. So which is highest? 28. So an entire 600 rupees, I will charge 28%. Now these things are necessary to bring uniformity. That's it. And suppose in the same example, you don't purchase this in a basket. You don't purchase it in a basket. You purchase chocolate separately. You purchase sweets separately, and you purchase fruity separately, not in a basket. Then I will not study the concept of mixed and composite, because now this is individual supply. This is separate supply. This is separate. When I am purchasing these things separately, not in a basket, then why will I check the concept of mixed supply? And since I will not check the concept of mixed supply, of course, I will not use my mind to go for composite supply. To be a composite supply, first of all, any supply must be mixed. Only then it can become composite. And what is mixed? When you don't have individual supply, you have two or more than two supplies. That's it. So I think the concepts are clear. Please raise your hand if the concepts are clear. In case not, please ask. Okay, it's great. And now in the next class, I will start with you the concept of place of supply, because I have told you in interstate supply and intrastate supply, we need two things to decide whether something is interstate or intrastate: location of supplier and place of supply. So how do you check place of supply? That I will show you in the next class. So that's all from my side. Goodbye for now.